Hello and welcome to Tuesday's Tea and Tips. So the second of my daily broadcasts this week to chat about all things content. Now today I'm joining you from a slightly different and bizarre location because it's half term here in the UK and my kids and in fact today my husband are at home. And so I thought rather than kick them all out of the room that I'm normally in, I would leave myself and find somewhere else, a new little home for my Facebook Lives. So I hope sound and picture wise it's still okay. Apologies if not. Hopefully tomorrow I'll be back in my normal location. But yes, here I am. If you could see the junk around me, it's like out of shot. This is basically our junk room, and I've kind of managed to come in and almost like wade my way through it to find a little space. And bizarrely, the lighting is so weird in this room that I've actually had to close the curtains so that it wasn't so bright that I was almost completely washed out totally. So yes, I'm in here with the window curtains closed, which seems odd. But anyway, there we go. So welcome. If you are watching live, give me a wave, say hello. If you're watching the replay, say hello too. Let me know who you are, where you're from, and why you're tuning in. What are your content struggles? Let me know. So today, I'm talking about how often we should be publishing content in our business. But before I do that, a quick introduction. So my name is Colette Broomhead and I'm a startup strategist, which basically means that I work with new online business owners. I help people to cut through the kind of overwhelm that's there when you're just starting out. You know, the amount of information that you're getting, the amount of things that you're being told that you need to do. So helping people to kind of cut through that noise and just create a clear, simple, actionable strategy that they can use to grow their business and to start earning consistent income from it so that they can quit their 9-to-5 for good. And the reason I feel so passionately about that is because that's what I did. I quit my 13-year corporate career for this business, and I haven't looked back since. It's given me more freedom of time to spend with my family, freedom of location. So after half term, my plan is to start working a couple of days from the gym, because why not? And you know, it's just given me more freedom overall, and that's what I want for other people too. So that's why it's my passion. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing. And over the course of May, I've been talking all things content, because content is a huge part of any online business. You can't be an online business owner and not creating content. You have a website, you have your perhaps blogs, podcasts, videos. Of course, you're on social media, so your social media needs content. Perhaps you've got an email list, and if you haven't, you should have. So that requires more content. So you are always going to be creating content. In fact, most online business owners that I speak to will confirm that they spend most of their time in content creation. So if that is the case for you, then you certainly want to make sure that the content that you're creating is having as much impact as possible. And the frequency with which you publish content is, of course, going to impact that. So let's talk about that. That is one of the most common content-related questions that I get. How often should I be posting? How often should I be blogging? How often should I be posting on social media? And you know, it's the $1 million question, isn't it? So let's dive in and get into some detail and look at that question and see what the answer is. You'll catch me glancing over here because I have all my juicy notes here to make sure that I don't forget anything. So chances are you'll have heard frequency. I mean, the more often that you post, the better. Yeah. You know, the more often that you post, Google loves it. If you post a lot, Google loves it. So you're going to get an SEO boost. The more often that you post, the more people will see your stuff, the more chance that you'll have of getting in front of people because you've got more stuff out there. And yes, that's kind of true. but it's not by any stretch of the imagination the whole picture. And I think that's why a lot of people fall down. They have this kind of frequency, got to keep posting, more content, more. And that is where people get in a mess, because of course frequency is not the only thing when it comes to creating powerful, impactful content. And if you're not creating powerful, impactful content, then what's the point? So let's dive in. Now, yesterday, I talked about the 4 different types of content that you should be creating for your business. If you missed that, do go and check it out, because that's going to help this also make a lot more sense. So I talked about the 4 different types. Number one was the content on your website. So basically your content hub, where you're going to be talking about yourself. You're going to be talking about your products and services, and you're going to be creating a kind of home or hub for the audience building content that you're creating, which is essentially your blog, podcast, or videos. Which is my second type of content. So the second type of content was audience building. You need people to know that you exist in the first place. So you need to create free, valuable content to attract your ideal clients. And that is, you do that by blogging, by podcasting, or by creating videos. Okay. And the third piece of content, or type of content, shall I say, that you'll be creating for your business is social. So content and social media, essentially. Content to build community, to create conversations, to deepen relationships with people who now know who you are. And then the fourth type of content was email, because email marketing, like it or hate it, is still the most powerful way to sell in your business. It is still it's going to get more reach than any other type of content that you create. That is just a fact. So email is powerful. You need to be doing it. And that is our fourth type of content. So let's go through each of those and look at how often you should be posting or publishing that type of content. Now, of course, website is easy. We talked about your website containing information about you. So you're going to create an about page, but you're just going to create it once. Chances are you'll want to go and update it every now and then. You'll want to go and just kind of refresh it. But essentially, you'll have one about me page. You'll have content on there about your products and services. Again, you only need to create that once and update it as and when necessary. So that's the easy part. You've got that content covered. That's just a case of creating it as and when you create new products and services, and then updating it either with changes that happen or just to freshen up the content as you see fit. Okay, so let's move straight into content type number 2, which was our audience building content. So your blogs, your podcasts, and your videos. So how often should you be creating this type of content? Now, let's go back to what we talked about earlier, which was all about that frequency, the importance of frequency. Because yes, it's true. The more often you post on, you publish a blog post on your website, the more that gives your website a little bit of a boost in terms of search, because Google does like to see you adding content regularly. However, by far more important than frequency is the quality of the content that you're creating and the consistency with which you're creating it and publishing it. So you need to balance those 3 factors, and you need to get that balance right. If you are creating with huge frequency, posting twice a day, but what you're putting out there is just fluff and rubbish, you're not going to, Google cares more about quality. They want people to find quality information when they use Google to search for it. And if your content isn't quality, doesn't matter how often you're posting, it's not going to come up search. It's not going to rise up search. So bear that in mind. If you can't post at the frequency that you're posting and still get high quality content, reduce the frequency. If you can't post at the frequency that you're posting and still manage to do that consistently, reduce the frequency that you're publishing content. Okay, so consistency and quality are above quantity. If you can't achieve those 2 with the frequency that you're doing at the moment, reduce that frequency until you get those 2 together, because quality and consistency are more important. Okay, it's a case, there is no right or wrong answer. If you can post twice daily, high quality content, and you can achieve that consistently day after day after day after day, then go for it. Most of us can't, especially when we're just starting a new business, because another thing to say is, you need to be able to do that and also have time left for the other aspects of your business, for creating your products and services, for selling your products and services, for actually working and serving your clients. So if you don't have time for all that, reduce the frequency that you're posting. Get my drift? And of course, then consider your outside life, your actual personal life. If you can't maintain that frequency and the quality and the consistency and the other stuff in your business, and actually have a life and actually have time outside, to relax, to rest, to spend time with loved ones and so on, reduce the frequency, because that isn't sustainable and it isn't healthy. So just get the balance right. And, it may take a bit of time. It may take a bit of kind of experimenting to see, what your limits are. A good place to start is weekly. You'll probably have already noticed that most people tend to publish, new blogs, new podcasts, new videos on a weekly basis. So start there, see how you get on. If you know straight away, actually, no, I can't even manage weekly, go bi-weekly, go monthly, and work to what you can. So better to start at a lower frequency and build up than to go the other way. Another consideration is that you may want to sometimes ramp up your frequency when it comes to special events. Perhaps you're going through a launch or something like that, then you may want to ramp up your frequency. So leaving a little bit of kind of jiggle room for that as well. Okay, so I hope that is clear for your audience building content. Let's just check I haven't missed anything. No, I think we've covered it. So let's move on to social. Now, we talked yesterday about the two different types of social content that you'll be creating. The first is promotional content, to actually promote your audience building content. So when you create a new blog post or podcast or whatever, you're going to create social media posts to promote that blog post or podcast or video. Okay, so now those types of posts, as we discussed yesterday, can be created quickly and easily. So you can probably manage quite a few of those. As an example, every time I publish a new blog, which I do weekly, I also schedule a whole month's worth of promotional social media posts across all of my channels. It takes me about 10 minutes. And if you want to know how, let me know. And I have actually written a blog post and done a little tutorial on it. So let me know, and I will pop the link in the comments for you. But that takes me about 10 minutes. So that's perfectly doable because they're kind of quick and easy posts. You can pre-schedule them, done and dusted, boom, you're done. So those types of promotional posts, you want to have those going on all the time. Every time you publish something, you want to be promoting it for up to a month or so. And what you also want to consider doing is re-promoting old content. Don't just let your old blog posts or podcasts or whatever sit there gathering dust. That's juicy stuff. It's valuable content that you've created. So every few months, schedule a load of social media to re-promote an old post. And get that out there as well. So every month, what I tend to do is I will, every week, I will publish a new blog post and I will create a month's worth of social media to promote that. And then I'll also create a new social media campaign, another month's worth of content to re-promote an old post. So I'll have like all of those posts going on in the background. And like I say, 10-20 minutes to do both of those. It's easy peasy. If you're using a scheduling tool, I use CoSchedule. And like I say, if you want to know how I do that, let me know and I will pop you the link to the post and tutorial on that. So that's your promotional content on social media. The other type of content for social media is audience building, relationship building, conversation. And that is really key. And their consistency and frequency is really key. People forget quickly on social media. So I'm going to cover just a kind of three. I mean, there's tons of different channels. Let's talk actually first about Pinterest. So Pinterest is slightly different, and we talked about this yesterday too. Pinterest isn't really your average social channel because there isn't much social activity going on there. It's more of a search engine. People use Pinterest to find stuff. And so you could treat it slightly differently. So, for example, I schedule 40 posts a day on Pinterest. And I know lots of people who schedule even more than that. 40, all of my own stuff. I'm not talking about repinning other people's content here. That's an entirely separate thing, which actually I don't do that much of. But I schedule 40 of my own posts pinned per day. And I do that across a series of group boards that I'm a member of. And that is what generates probably about 50% of my website traffic. So it's a really key thing. And it takes me about 5 minutes once every 7 to 10 days. So, low maintenance, high result, good stuff. Again, if you want to know how I do that and more about that strategy, let me know. I have a blog post that takes you through it all step by step. So that's Pinterest. So actually Pinterest, again, you can do it. You can do a lot of posts quickly and easily. No muss, no fuss. So get it out there. And then, again, those are the promotional ones as well. So in terms, let's go back now to the audience building, to the community building. So generally speaking, you're going to be doing that either on Facebook, on Instagram, or on Twitter. Those are probably the kind of key channels in terms of kind of audience building, conversations, community, and so on. Now, in terms of how often you should be posting on those channels, first of all, we talked yesterday about just choosing one of those channels when you're just starting out, 2 max. Because if you're trying to spread yourself across too many channels, because for audience building, it does take frequency, it does take consistency. And if you're trying to do that across too many channels, you're going to wear yourself too thin and you're not going to see that momentum, and you're just going to get overwhelmed very quickly. So focus on 1, maximum 2 of those channels, and have a play basically. So let's talk kind of averages. So I'll tell you what I do. So on my Facebook page, I generally post between 1 and 3 times a day. In my Facebook group, I generally post 1 to 2 times a day. Instagram, I'll probably post around once a day on my feed, but stories for me is where it's at on Instagram. And so my focus is actually more about showing up on my stories. So I'm trying to create at least 3 stories a day. And actually, Twitter isn't something I use for audience building. I only use Twitter for promotional purposes. So that's not something I use at all. But again, the key here for social media is finding that balance, because quality and consistency are more important here as well. If you can't post quality, consistently 3 times a day, then reduce the frequency. Again, with social media, probably a good place to start is once a day. Try once a day on your chosen channel, and make sure that you're creating something consistent and that you're creating something of value, and do that once a day. And if you're finding that's easy peasy and you think that you can up it a bit, then test it, try it twice a day and see how you get on. But make sure that you are not sacrificing the quality of your posts or the consistency, because those are more important than the frequency. Okay, and again with social, consider ramping up your frequency for special events such as a launch. If you're about to launch a new product or service, then yeah, go for it. Get out there, be in people's faces, get in front of them, ramp up your frequency for that launch, and then kind of settle back down again to your usual pattern of whatever it is, once, twice a day. And see how that works. Another great tactic, of course, is always to ask your audience. So you can do that just with a simple poll. Would you like me to post more frequently? Yes or no? And that will give you a really good idea as to what your audience wants. Do they want more frequency, or actually are they happy with what you've got, with what you're already doing? Always be checking in with your audience, because actually audiences differ from niche to niche, from business to business. So, there are some companies, if you look on Instagram, there are some, companies who are posting 30 times a day, and that's fine because their audience, don't mind that. They're happy with that, because of perhaps the topic it's on or whatever. And then, you know, you've got other businesses who are posting way less frequently, perhaps just twice a week. But that's okay, because that's what their audience is used to. That's what they're, you know, comfortable with. So check in, you know, run little polls, ask your audience, you know, how often would you like to see my posts every day? And just get a sense for where they're at, because that's really going to help you as well. Okay. And something really key to remember with social media is reduce the number of channels rather than the number of posts first if you're struggling. So as I said at the start, if you're trying to cover, you know, all the channels and build community on all the channels, and build that audience and build that kind of engagement, if you're trying to do that across all the channels and you're struggling to be consistent with it, then cut it down. Focus on just one and keep that consistency, keep the frequency, but just do it on one channel. And once you've got that one nailed, and once you start to see the momentum there, only then start to try and branch out. And that's where you'll start to see the faster growth happening, and the engagement and the actual results and momentum that you're looking for. Okay, let me know if you have any questions along the way. I hope this is all making sense. And let's now move to our fourth content type, which was email. So now with email, again, there are two types of email that you'll be sending your audience. There are automated or triggered emails, and then you also have broadcasts. So I'll explain what those two are. So let's start with your automated or triggered. Now, as the name suggests, these are the types of emails that are actually triggered by a certain action or event. Generally speaking, there'll be your welcome series. So when someone signs up for one of your lead magnets, that will trigger a welcome series. So they'll get sent a welcome email saying, hey, you know, thanks for signing up for my whatever it is. Here it is, you know. So those are your automated and triggered emails. Now, generally speaking, you will create more than one of those, because what you're trying to do is kind of introduce your new subscriber to you and your business. So you want to do more than just send them the lead magnet. You want to kind of give them, take them almost on a little journey so that they can get to know you better, get to know your business better. Because that's the point of email, is really trying to strengthen and deepen a relationship with your subscribers. So now my welcome series vary from anything from just 2 emails all the way up to about 7 or 8 emails for some of them. So the key here is to think about what are the things that you want to achieve with your welcome series. So examples might be, of course, first of all, you want to send them your lead magnet. That's, you know, fundamental. That needs to be first and foremost, because that's what they've signed up for. Perhaps you also want to tell them a bit about your story, you know, why you're doing what you're doing. Perhaps you want to tell them where else they can find you, you know, share your social media channels so that if they're, you know, wanting to discover more about you, they can go and follow you on Facebook or join your Facebook group or whatever it may be. LinkedIn, whichever your channels are that you've chosen, you perhaps want to share that so that they can go and follow you there as well. So there's lots of different things that you might want to do. You might also want to lead them into a sale, you know, take them from the lead magnet into perhaps promoting one of your products or services, inviting them for a discovery call, whatever it may be. Think about those key things. Always be strategic when you're planning your content and your frequency. What is it that I want my welcome series to achieve? And what will that look like in terms of how many emails? I don't really want to be putting everything in one long email, because that's going to overwhelm people. There's going to be too many different instructions. You don't really want in the same email to be going, hey, look at your lead magnet. Now go and follow me on social media. Now go and do this. Now go, oh, and hey, buy from me. Because people will just be like, whoa, too much. So you probably want to break it down. So think about how that works. And again, experiment, you know, try different lengths of series of emails and see what works. Ask your audience, what do they like? Did they like your welcome series? When someone's been through it, hey, how did you find that? Did you find that helpful? Let me know. And then you can kind of tweak and change as you go. So those are your automated and triggered emails. And then, of course, you have your broadcast. Now, these are the kind of one-off type emails that you will send out to either your entire list or to sort of different segments of your list. And they will be things like your weekly newsletter, or any kind of promotional type stuff. So if you're going through a launch and you want to tell your email list about your new products and services, then that will generally be done via broadcast as well. Now, How often? So for things like a newsletter, how often should you be doing one of those? And there's going to be no shock here. The key is quality and consistency over frequency. So make sure that you're choosing a frequency that you can actually manage and still be sending quality content and still keep up with it consistently. Now, a good place to start with email is probably weekly. Most people expect to hear from people weekly because I think that tends to be the most common frequency for things like newsletters. So perhaps start there. Start with weekly. If you're also publishing your new audience building content, such as your blog or your podcast weekly, then those tie in very well together. And if you're on my email list, you'll know that's what I do. So on a Monday, I'll publish new content. And on a Tuesday, I'll email my email list to let them know about that new content and send them my newsletter. Okay, so nice and simple. Weekly, it makes it nice and easy. Sets expectations with your audience, and it's a nice flow to get into. So have a play with that. But as always, ask your audience again, how often do you want to hear from me? And then, of course, with everything else as well, if you are going through something like a launch, you'll ramp up your emails because you'll be sending emails about that, and you'll probably want to separate those out because they'll then stand out more to your audience. They're more likely to be noticed and acted upon. So that's email. Have I missed anything? Okay, I think that's everything. So basically, then we covered your website, which of course is a kind of one and done thing. You'll create your about page, you'll create your products and services pages, and then you'll just update them as and when to keep them fresh and relevant. Then we talked about audience building. So that type of content is your blog, podcast, and videos, which generally speaking, around weekly is a good place to start, but always remembering frequency is less important than consistency and quality. So making sure that those aren't sacrificed. Reduce the frequency first so that you're not sacrificing quality or consistency. Social media, we talked about reducing the number of channels before reducing the frequency, because with social media, you do need to be showing up probably at least daily on whatever channel you choose. So if you can't do that across multiple channels, and chances are you can't when you're just starting out because you've got too much other stuff to focus on too, reduce that down to 1-2 channels at maximum, and focus on posting at least daily. Start with daily. If you can do more, great. Ask your audience, check what they want. How often do they want to hear from you? And again, make sure quality and consistency aren't sacrificed to frequency. And then lastly, we talked about email. So we talked about automated trigger type posts. And so working out for things like your welcome series, what it is you actually want to achieve with that series and what that looks in terms of how many emails it'll take to do it. And then just testing and saying, does this work? Okay, I'm going to try it in 4 emails. How's that going to work? And check things like your open rates, your engagement rates, your unsubscribe rates, because that will give you an indication as to how your emails are going down. If you're emailing too frequently, you'll probably see a jump in your unsubscribe rates. I know whenever I go through a launch and I suddenly ramp up the amount of emails I'm sending, I will also see more people unsubscribing. Now, that's not always a bad thing, because generally it means that those people are people who aren't interested in my products and services, and so they're not really my ideal clients anyway. So, that can be quite a useful exercise. But it can also be an indication if it's happening too often. If it's happening, say, for example, every time you're sending out a newsletter, if you're seeing, more and more unsubscribers, of course, a few unsubscribers every time is probably pretty normal. You would expect a certain number of unsubscribes. I think around, let me get this right, usually around 3%. I can't remember the statistic, but I think it's something around that you would expect to see unsubscribe. But if you're seeing it ramp up and getting more and more, then that might be an indication that perhaps you're posting too frequently. And so try dropping it back and seeing if that reduces the unsubscribe rates. But also measure that against your open rates, against your engagement rates, because actually if unsubscribes are increasing, but also open and engagement rates are increasing, then it might be worth that payoff. So kind of take that balance in and just test with all of these things, testing, experimenting, and asking your audience. is really key, and it really, really helps, because it will differ. The frequency is going to differ from person to person, from business to business, from niche to niche, from audience to audience. So you need to be constantly kind of checking in and looking what works for you and what works for your audience. So basically, as a conclusion, remember quality and consistency over quantity. Always, no matter what the content is, that is always the case. And then if in doubt, test different frequencies, see what works, see what gives you the best results, and ask your audience. As always, ask your audience, what do they want? And let that guide you too. So I hope that's been helpful. Do let me know if you've had any kind of aha moments, anything that's jumped out and really helped you. And if you have any questions, then on Thursday at 6:30 p.m. BST, I will be going live in my Facebook group Business Class for a Q&A. So come and join me, send me your questions, and I will answer all of them there. If you're not already a member of Business Class, then do come and join us. I will leave a link so that you can join and come see our Q&A. And that's it for today. I hope you found it helpful, and I will see you tomorrow. I will keep you posted on the time tomorrow. I don't yet know what time. It'll either be fairly early in the morning or in the evening sometime, because I'm out for the day with my boys. So I shall be out in the middle of the day. So yes, I shall either see you in the morning or in the evening, and I will let you know later today when that will be. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Come and join us on Thursday in Business Class for the Q&A. If you think anyone else would find this helpful, then please do share it with anyone who you think would find it useful. And I'll see you tomorrow. Have a great day. Bye.